नमस्कार साथियों. Today we are going to talk about revolution, rebellion, revolt, mutiny, and uprising. These are several terms which normally agitate us, and many wrongly understand that they are virtually synonymous. So the question is that are these terms having different connotations or they are having the same meaning? So today let me first discuss what is revolution. Revolution word has been very commonly used by students and the general public. And what is the concept? The concept is that whenever we talk of a revolution, we are talking of a challenge to the existing order. And not only a challenge to the existing order, but also a replacement of the existing order. So, two things are very important. One is challenging the existing order, and the other is the replacing the or creating a new one. Now, these things can be both positive as well as negative. What we mean by the negative? By positive, we mean something, a change in the existing status quo for a better society. And for example, we can talk about the green revolution in India. And when we talk about the green revolution, what we are talking about? We are talking that we have moved from the food scarcity to the food surplus through the green revolution. Similarly, if we are talking about a white revolution, then we are suggesting that we have moved from scarcity of milk in India to the surplus of milk in India. And today there is neither any scarcity of milk nor any scarcity of the food grain. So this is in a positive sense, revolution is taken as. In addition to this, most of the students in political science and sociology and in international relations and so on and so forth, they understand revolution in a bloody sense. Bloody sense means that they think that revolution is something which involves violence, which involves bloodshed, which involves killings, and which involves a lot of wars, etc., etc. And there is a transition from the existing political order and the replacement of that political order by some other order. Like we can talk about the French Revolution, for example. French Revolution was a revolution 1789 and started by Robespierre and ended by Napoleon Bonaparte. And we all know that these two giants are, credited with the French Revolution. But that revolution was a bloody revolution. It brought an end to monarchy and established the rule of the people. So here you see that in both cases, positively and negatively. Positively, that within the existing order we are able to tide over some existing problem and move on. And but in another sense, it also involves a lot of bloodshed and killings in the negative sense of the term, and therefore revolution for many becomes something a bloody revolution. But revolution is not necessarily bloody. It can be bloody, but it can be peaceful also, it can be creative also, it can be positive also, like we talk about the green revolution, white revolution, yellow revolution, etc., etc., and so on. And normally a revolution is credited with a particular leader. Like I talked about the French Revolution, Robespierre and Napoleon Bonaparte, leaders who led the revolution. In the same way, I talk about Norman Borlaug, who led the Green Revolution. So normally a revolution has a leader, but normally it is a collective endeavor. It's not done by one single individual, but it is led by one single leader who is prominent and recorded in history perpetually. And normally, when we talk about a revolution, normally it is suggestive of something, a successful attempt to change the order. Normally, revolutions which do not, succeed, they do not qualify to be called revolution. A revolution is revolution when it is certainly a successful one. So these are the things attached to what we call revolution. Now, the second nomenclature that we are going to focus today is about the revolt or rebellion. Now, revolt or rebellion would be by many considered to be synonymous with revolution, but there is some slight subtle difference which we ought to understand. When we talk of revolt or when we talk of rebellion, both are actually one and the same. We are talking of a challenge to the existing authority. Not we are talking of suddenly the entire order, but we are talking of a revolt or a challenge to the existing authority. And it can be done by an individual and it can also be done by a group. For example, when we say the child has revolted against the authority of his family or father or mother, when a student has revolted or rebelled against the decision of the management of the college or the college, of a college, then we can say that, well, revolt and rebellion can also be an individual or a group activity. For example, if a child revolts against the decision of a father, then it can be called, I mean, the father may say that the child should not watch the television, but the child may say, no, I will watch the television. And these days, it's very difficult to hold on to that. So a child, one individual can challenge the authority of his father. In the same way, a group in the class can challenge and revolt against the order of the management to suspend a teacher who might be a very good teacher for the in the eyes of the students. So it becomes a collective endeavor also. So in this way, a revolt can be done by an individual or it can be done by a group of people. That means like a class or a group or anybody in an institution. It can be done by workers, syndicate or workers union or students union or whatever in any organization or institution. So the revolt can either be against an individual, it can be against a group, or it can be against an institution, or even it can be against a government. So revolts are and rebellions are also against sometimes the government. And normally they are, a kind of a protest, and they can be violent too. It's just not necessary that they will be only peaceful. Sometimes a revolt or a rebellion can become violent also. So there is a possibility, like in the revolution, you saw that revolution can both be peaceful and it can be bloody. In the same way, a revolt can be an individual attempt or a group attempt, which can be just protest, but it can also be somebody could take to arms and go for violence, and therefore revolt and rebellion can also be. So the fundamental difference is that when we are talking of a revolution, we are trying to change the existing order suddenly, but when we are trying to revolt, it's only a protest to the existing authority, and it's not going to change the order. And finally, the mutiny and the uprising that we call. Now, a mutiny or an uprising is neither a challenge to the existing order nor an attempt to completely, revolt and go against the authority, but it is a collective challenge to the existing authority by a section of the people, not by the entire society, by a section of the people, and it is usually against some kind of rule or some existing law or some existing governmental provisions, and it is an expression of dissatisfaction against those rules, laws, and orders. And it is normally a brief thing, it's a limited thing, and mostly these mutinies and uprisings are ineffective and looked upon as insubordination to the authority, and normally they are, crushed. So, a mutiny and an uprising is seen from the perspective of the authority, and the authority considers that such attempts, which are an attempt to express insubordination to the authority and an attempt to violate the existing law and order and rules and regulation, they qualify to be called some kind of a mutiny and uprising. But at the same time, in some cases, mutiny can also be violent and it can also be armed. Like in many cases, the people call the 58 1857 attempt at the first Indian War of Independence as a mutiny. So in some cases, it depends upon the lens from which, perspective from which you are seeing. If you are seeing some uprising or some जो है, some kind of a protest against the existing order and law and authority, from the perspective of the authority, then and you crush it, then you call it a mutiny or an uprising which had been subsided. So briefly, we have tried to discuss revolution, revolt, and mutiny, and I think conceptually, we are not very clear about all these concepts, but there is a waterline, there is a very small difference, subtle difference between all these three terms, and therefore I thought that we should discuss this. Thank you very much.